oftentimes for me, I've seen it's husband and wife. They're on the board together. They have a ministry or what have you. It could be any nonprofit, again, that you want your family member to serve on the board. And it's probably very likely that you'll go into a lease or contract with that person. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Your story is your mission. My name is Beatrice Adams, and I'm so excited that you have joined me again today. Thank you to each and every one of you who have subscribed. And if you're new to this channel, please hit that subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate that. And welcome. And I need you to hit that subscribe button because I need YouTube to know that you support my channel. So, hey, please subscribe. So I left off at part 5, compensation and other financial arrangements. And it was actually, we went through this entire section, but I wanted to go back and readdress number 5. And we'll just scroll down just a little bit here till we get to that. And that is leases, contracts, loans, and other agreements. This question is something that you definitely want to address. You could, of course, put no and go on, but my clients, I've seen that they typically will have to answer this question. Um, and that's because if you are, a church or a ministry or, just someone who wants to have a board member, a family member on your board, it could be oftentimes for me, I've seen it's husband and wife. They're on the board together. They have a ministry or what have you. It could be any nonprofit, again, that you want your family member to serve on the board. And it's probably very likely that you'll go into a lease or contract with that person. Again, it could be your wife, it could be your sister or whatever, but if you two are you three, that's the amount you have to have on your board to do this. If you are going to start out together on the board and you're brand new, you probably don't have any credit in the name of the nonprofit. You're just not going to. It's just not, you're new. So you are going to be most probably going into a contract to lease a building or what have you with a family member. So we want to address this question. And it says, do you or will you have any leases, contracts, loans, or other agreements with your officers, directors, or trustees? Look at that. Sorry about that. So I actually want to address the question, and that's number 5. I want to address that using a document that I actually created. And this is one that I actually upload with the Form 1023 application because I want to give as much detail as I can to the IRS. I want to be able to answer those questions and have enough space for that. So this is one that I created. I will put it in the link below so that you can grab that. It will be one that it'll just be easier for you to pull it up and look at, but it will be this exact form. So you see here at the top, remember I've said it before in other videos, I cannot stress it enough to make sure that you have the nonprofit's name and the EIN, the employer identification number, at the top of each and every page. Now, you will recall this is just a made up nonprofit. That's a made up EIN, and this is for the purposes of these videos. So let's address the question. Um, so it says, I'm just pointing the IRS to where the question is. This is what I just want them to know. See below the following answers as it relates to leases, contracts, loans, or other agreements with officers, directors, or trustees. Form 1023, Part 5, Number 5. Okay. And then all I did was I copied the exact question verbatim from the IRS form, the 1023 application. I just copy that here, but let's go over that. And I want to point out something about the IRS's questions on a lot of these, on that Form 1023. A lot of the questions are very detailed. They can get very confusing, intimidating, even. because there are so many parts to one question. See all of that? All of this down to here, that is one question, but there are so many parts to it. I want to show you something that I do to make it easier to pick these apart. If you're like me, you haven't been in English class for a while. So I'm just going to take you through a little English lesson I learned way back in high school. I had a great teacher, but this is what she taught me, and her name was Miss Price. So what you do is you break them down. So here's the question. Do you or will you have any leases, contracts, loans, or other agreements with, see that? Your officers, directors, or trustees. That's one part of the question. Now, that is the part that we will be answering in this document because if you are brand new, and most of you are, and also you want to have maybe a family member on your board. Remember, I addressed how to do that in a previous video. But if you want to have a family member on your board, and you could be a ministry, you could be what have you, where husband and wife, or sister and brother, you're both on the board. Likelihood of your having to lease a building in all three of the board members' names, or just two of them, what have you. But it's very possible that you will have to do that. And this is what I've found with my clients. They could be husband and wife, often are. And hey, you're going to have to lease a building with that person. You may not have to lease it with all three board members, right? Because, you don't need all three, but you do want to let the IRS know that you're going to possibly have to do that. And I do want to point out that before we go any further into this question and how we're going to break that apart, I do want to point out that your bylaws must allow this. It must allow for your board members to enter into contracts and leases and so on and so forth on behalf of the organization. So be sure, that you add an article in there, have it purposes and powers, where you're going to, lay out a lot. But that would be the section where you would say that your board of directors, excuse me, are going to act as trustee, and they're going to enter into or make or perform or carry out contracts or grants. They're going to make sure that it's for any lawful purpose. They're also going to, um, well, whatever you do, you want to make sure it's going to further the nonprofits mentioned, and you're going to do it legally. And that's why you need to make sure your bylaws do allow for you to go into contracts, so on and so forth. And I wanted to talk about one other thing really quickly here. Um, but I'll just go ahead with this right now. So to break these apart, again, you saw how I just broke that apart, right? That's what we're going to be addressing. But as you can see, there are other questions here within that one. So this is what you want to do. Do you or will you have any leases, contracts, loans, or other agreements with any family member? Any family of any of your officers, directors, or trustees. In this case, I've never ran into that because my clients are not using another family member of an officer or director or trustee to go into any leases or contracts. If that is the case with you, be sure to answer that question. Now, break it apart again. Do you or will you have any leases, contracts, loans, or other agreements with, here we go, any organization in which any of your officers, directors, or trustees are also officers, directors, or trustees, or in which any individual officer, director, or trustee owns more than a 35% interest? In my client's case, that's a no. In your case, that will most probably be a no. If it is not a no, you must answer that question. But I can't imagine that it would be. But yeah. If it is a yes for you, answer that question. But you see how they just really put all of these questions into one, and it can get very, very confusing. And even in this part that I just read, there's a two for one right there. They've got two questions in that one part. Just, I think you get the gist of it. Break them apart. Do you or will you have any leases, contracts, loans, or other agreements with your highest compensated employees? My client says a no. If it's a yes, answer the question. Break it apart again. You get it. Your highest compensated independent contractors. No, I've not run into that. But again, if it's a yes for you, you must answer that question. But I'm going to address what is a yes for my clients. And that is this. Do you or will you have any leases, contracts, loans, or other agreements with your officers, directors, or trustees? And I just spoke with you about why that could be a yes for you. Here we go. If yes, describe any written or oral arrangements that you made or intend to make, with whom you have or will have such arrangements, how the terms are or will be negotiated at arm's length, and how you determine you pay no more than fair market value, or you are paid at least fair market value. Now, at this point, you're thinking, my God, this question is humongous. It is crazy. All of these questions, all of these parts, why? What in the world? But it is the way it is on that Form 1023 application. But I told you you can do it. Just dig back into your English lessons in class, high school, college, what have you, at the university. Just dig back in there and take your time with these questions, because I assure you, you can do this. So, luckily for you, I've broken all of this apart. All of this. We're going to answer this right here. And then I have broken all of this down, right? So let's get to it. Number one, description of written or oral arrangements made or intended to be made by the organization, right? Because they asked, describe any written or oral arrangements that you made or intend to make. Okay. And then it goes into further with whom you have or will have such arrangements. So we're going to stop right here. This question is going to address all of that. So, Pretty Paws Foundation, Inc., for the purposes of this document, has made or may make in the future leases, contracts, loans, or other agreements with this board of directors for the rental or purchase of a building that will serve as the nonprofit's base of operations, provide a central location for planning, training, and administration, enabling staff and volunteers to coordinate efforts effectively, house essential supplies such as pet food, grooming tools, and educational materials for distribution, and offer space for workshops where pet owners can receive valuable information and support. All right. So that I'm going to stop right there, and I want to tell you why I put all of that in there. Well, first of all, I want the IRS to not have to guess. What's the building going to be for? I mean, I get it. You're going to have a lease and a contract for a building. But let's just do them, a service here. Let's just help them out and tell them what the building is going to be used for. But guess who else it helps out? It helps you out, because you're right here. You're telling yourself you can go and start creating your business plan based on this information. You're telling yourself why we need a building, what it's going to be used for. It may not be, limited to this, but this is helping you, right? This is the whole purpose of doing the long form 1023, because it is laying the very foundation for your nonprofit so you can effectively hit the ground running. You'll have a successful launch if you know what you're doing, why you're doing it, where you're going, how you're going to get there, so on and so forth. And now here, let's break my paragraph apart. Pretty Paws Foundation, Inc., for the purposes of this document, has made or may make in the future, here we are at B, In-kind services or or facilities offered. For example, buildings, fans, computers, software, furniture, and office equipment. All right. Or may engage in operational services. For example, meeting spaces, photocopying, mail services, to include administrative and accounting support. Or may engage in services offered as it relates to expertise in legal, tax, business consultations, marketing, and strategic planning. So I'm letting the IRS know exactly what type of arrangements we're going to be making or intend to make, may make, and why. All right. Excuse me. So we'll just kind of keep going here. Um, we've already addressed these two, excuse me, with whom we already know it's going to be with the board of directors. Now we need to address, excuse me, I kind of told you a story there. We haven't addressed with whom, right? We just addressed, we described any written or oral arrangements that you made or intend to make or may make. Now we're going to address with whom you will have or will, excuse me, with whom you have or will have such arrangements. All right, I've had a little too much coffee this morning. I think I'm getting away from myself. But let's go on to number two. Let's address that, right? So I repeat it. Here we go, IRS. Description of with whom the organization has or will have such arrangements. The future agreements outlined in number one may be made by and between Pretty Paws Foundation through its board of directors and real estate companies, private owners, local corporations, and organizations whose prime operations, excuse me, are based within the United States. Okay, so I answered that question, so they'll know. Now, here's another question, within that same one question. Now they want us to describe how the terms are or will be negotiated at arm's length. So let's go down here. I just kind of, laid it out for them, make it easy. So here we go. Explanation of how the terms are or will be negotiated at arm's length. And what do you see up here? I'm on the second page, right? There you see it. That EIN and the nonprofit's name. Before I get to number three, I want to tell you why they probably do this. Now, I don't know this for a fact, but I know if it were me, this is why I would require this be on every page, especially when it's the IRS is dealing with so many applications, right? So now, it used to be that you would send this up with it'd be paper. You just send all the documents up at one time. Now you're going to upload everything into the system. So it shouldn't be, I would think it wouldn't be as big of a deal, but I wouldn't even trust it. I wouldn't even play that. Put this on there because remember, back in the day when we dealt with paper. I still do. And say I got up, I was working on Pretty Paws Foundation. I was with the IRS. I was working on this, and I had their documentation in my hand on my desk. And I got up and I went to lunch, and say a piece of paper fell off, right? One of these fell off, and this was not there. Let's just remove it. And that was not there. It wasn't on any page. I could see that it was Pretty Paws Foundation, but it was none of what I needed was on this page. And someone kicked it down the hall, what have you, stepped on it, it went on their foot, it just went way away from my desk. Well, what do you think is going to happen to this without that information on there? Hey, anything can happen. Like, I don't know what happens once it gets to the IRS and how they deal with the uploads and everything now, but, when it was paper, I could certainly see why it's very important to put this on every single page. And it all could also could be that, you upload the documents and you don't there's only going to be so much information that you can use as far as, naming it. There's only so many spaces for that when you're scanning and uploading, for the document name. And say you just forget to say that it's Pretty Paws Foundation, EIN 123456789. You just forget to label it that. I just don't know what could happen. So let's not change it. It's not broke. Let's keep it going. If it's not broke, whatever the saying is. So let's just keep doing that. Let's just not leave anything to chance. So I'm going to put that back. And you for yourself, even if you're looking at your own document, your information, you know what it is. You don't have to say, "Oh man, what was that again? How is it on my articles?" Remember, this would be exactly as it is in your articles of incorporation, not the EIN letter, but how it's listed in your article. So you don't have to wonder yourself, man, I got to retype this name. How is it in my articles? You already put it up here. You already know this is exactly how it's listed in your articles. You don't have to go searching for your EIN when you're trying to do these documents. You already have it right here. So you start out each one with this, each document that you're going to upload with this EIN and the name of the nonprofit. You don't have to search. Trust me, I've done it. It just makes it so much easier to not have to keep looking at a file or a piece of paper trying to make sure all of this is accurate. So if nothing else, do it for yourself. Okay, enough of that. Number 3, again, explanation of how the terms are or will be negotiated at arm's length. This is what you want to say pretty much. All future agreements by and between Pretty Paws Foundation, Inc., real estate companies, private owners, local corporations, and organizations will be conducted at an arm's length. Here we go. As per the definition of an arm's length transaction, agreements will not be influenced by anything except normal market influences like supply and demand. Relationships by and between Pretty Paws Foundation, Inc. and the aforementioned entities will be strictly business relationships between the two parties in the agreement. You're letting the IRS know. I not only said that, yeah, we're going to make sure the agreements by and between Pretty Paws Foundation and all these other people are conducted at an arm's length. You're letting them know. I actually took the time to kind of do a little research to see what that meant. And guess what? They know what it means. But you're the one that needs to know what an arm's length transaction means so that when it comes up, you can handle it accordingly. You don't have to go searching. Remember, you're laying the groundwork for your foundation. You're going to hit the ground running. It's going to be a successful launch, but you got to do the work first. I have a video. Don't rush the process. You got to do the work first. That's why, again, I'm not a fan of, as you've heard me say it before, not so much a fan of the Form 1023 Easy because it's not going to require you to do all of this. You will attest that you have stuff done. But remember, you can be called on it from the IRS, so I suggest you make sure it's done. But this is why I prefer the long form 1023. It's just better to get the work done, and then you will hit the ground running, pay that $600 fee, but make sure you do this work. If you're going to do the Form 1023 Easy, I suggest you grab that form, the long form, look through it and start doing the work. You don't have to resubmit it because once they approve you as a tax exempt organization under 501c3 of the Internal Revenue Code, once they approve you with the easy form, you don't have to do the long form. You're good. I've had that question. So you're good. Just take that long form and start doing the work and getting everything into place. Again, Form 1023, watch the video. I go over that, but let's keep going. Number 4, let's go back up here. I'm going to just show you, sorry to go so fast. So we answered these questions. We are with whom you will have or will have such arrangements, how the terms are or will be negotiated at arm's length. We just answered that. Now the last question we need to have answer or next to the last is how you determine you pay no more than fair market value or you are paid at least fair market value. So let's scroll back down here. I'll try not to go too fast, and I don't want you to get dizzy. So here we are. Number 4, explanation of how it was determined that the organization will pay no more than fair market value or be paid at least fair market value. This is what you want to say. The best method rule, as is part of U.S. tax law, will be followed by Pretty Paws Foundation, Inc. and real estate companies, private owners, local corporations, and organizations, as it requires that when there is a chance that an agreement is not at arm's length, a suitable method will be used to determine a fair market value for whatever is being sold. Pretty Paws Foundation, Inc. will make every attempt to find a disinterested third party whose profession is in whatever is being sold and who is unfamiliar with both parties to have them value the item. That's what you want to follow. If you have any questions about or any more questions about the best method rule, definitely consult with a CPA. All right. But that sums it up. And you're letting them know that's how you're going to determine that Pretty Paws Foundation will pay no more than fair market value, or at least fair market value. Now, I added another one here, and it's attached are copies of any signed leases, contracts, loans, or other agreements relating to such arrangements. In this case, Pretty Paws Foundation, and I made an error there. Pretty Paws Foundation, Inc. currently has no such agreements. Now, you probably won't have any, because you're brand new. But I'll tell you who probably will have one, and that's church. A church probably will already have a lease or some type of loan or contract, mortgage or what have you. If you've been going at it for a while and then you decided, you know what, I want to be an official 501c3. Yes, I know that a church is, I'm talking like I'm the person that's at the church, but you're the church pastor or what have you. You're like, I know that a church is a 501c3 by law, but I want to make it official. I want to actually get that letter from the IRS that says, whatever Pretty Paws Foundation Church, I made that up, is a 501, excuse me, a tax exempt organization under 501c3 of the Internal Revenue Code. Like, I want it to be set in stone. I know it's the law, but I want it to be set in stone. I want to see that piece of paper that says that. So, because then I'm going to take this to another level. Got a lot of people to preach to, a lot of people to teach to, right? So, this is what you're thinking as a church. So, that would be the case where you probably already have a lease or a mortgage or some type of loan in place. And in that case, you would say, see attached lease, executed lease or contract, whatever it is, you would do that. And then, of course, you would attach it. And guess what you would do? For every page that you attach, you would what? You would add a label, just affix a label to it. It's just easy to get Avery labels. They don't sponsor me, but that's just what I use. But it's easy to get Avery labels to put on there, each one, the name of the nonprofit and the EIN. It's just easy, avery.com. You can go to that website. They have labels that you can purchase, but they also have, the templates. And you would just put in that template number that comes on the box, and you would say, hey, this is the one. It's just really easy. And that's just what I do for every client, because I do have pages that do need me to affix a label to it. And I just, again, use Avery label. Again, they're not sponsoring me or anything, but that's just what I use, and it will make it easier for you. And it looks so much neater than you trying to handwrite the name of the nonprofit and the EIN on each page. The IRS may not be able to read your handwriting. That's just the way it is. If they're trying to read mine, it'll be a little difficult. But anyway, so that's pretty much for that section. Bear with me just a moment. I'm going to hop back over to a different screen. And so we are back here at number 5. again, we answered the questions on an individual document, but I do want to put just enough information in here so that the IRS will not think I ignored the question. And of course, the system will allow me to progress to the next stage. So we're going to just go and grab some of number one. I think it may put all of it in there. So let me just see how much it'll let me put. So I am right now copying and getting ready to paste information in here. So there we are. So we're at, you're going to have to clean this up too a little bit. As you can see, it kind of does its own thing. But this actually did pretty good. Sometimes there's like lots of space in here and you have to just kind of go up here and fix it. But this is all I did. I just kind of gave them a start for that description in answering these questions for number 5. Oh, and I think I showed you this in another video. It does not like certain characters, but the good thing about the IRS's website or pay.gov, which is the same thing, it tells you exactly which characters that are invalid. You don't have to go in here and trying to fix and remove and so on and so forth. It's just telling me right there it's telling me I've got 3 semicolons that I need to remove. So I love that part about pay.gov. So we're going to go ahead and take this out. I'm going to put a comma instead of that one. And you see, as I take that out, now it's telling me I only have 2. So we'll just go and find the other ones. I'll take this one out, put a comma there. And let's see where the other one is. You're probably seeing it before I do, but it's here somewhere. There it is. So we'll take that one out. All right. Oop, what did I do there? Oh, now it's telling me my response must be no more than 1,000 characters, which is why I actually do an individual document because again, I think I mentioned that it's not going to allow but so many characters. So let's just take this out, stop there at B, and then I'm going to just say right here in semicolon in all caps, see uploaded document for more information on leases. Let's see if I'm putting too many contracts, etc. Well, I'm not. It's telling me I've got 226 characters remaining, so I'm good. So that's what we're going to do there. So copy just what it will take and then add see uploaded document for more information on leases, contracts, etc. All right, and that pretty much sums that part up, and you can see why I wanted to address that separately. I'm not going to go over this because we've already answered in the previous video, which we touched on number 6, but you can see it's a no there, no for number 7, and it's a no for number 8. We'll go ahead and click next because that's where I will pick up. And this is going to be the part it's going to, I've had several of you wonder, how in the world do I do that? So that one will be definitely a detailed video, but we're going to address that in the next video. And thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel.